Good day, good day. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Your Kids podcast. And
Hey,
today, hey, I'm already hyped. And today we have with us Dominique, and I'm so excited.
bow, 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 bow. Hi,
I need
Jay.
sound effects, huh? Oh my goodness, I need to upgrade. Yes, how are you? Introduce yourself.
I am well. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, I'm Dominique. I'm Dom. I'm an educator and a longtime New Yorker, a uh, by birth and ethnicity Brazilian, and by calling, I would say I'm very much for alternatives and for choice. And that I think is what brings me here to this conversation with you as, a homeschool your kids person. I think we vibe on that aspect that we should all be able to choose for ourselves how we're going to do things, how we're going to learn, how we're going to live. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. You said it. Yes. Tell us something about your organization because you have a wonderful, and I love the name of it. Tell us about that.
Off the Beaten Path Learning, LLC. Boom.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been going on for a few years now, since 2020. And Off the Beaten Path Learning, we offer one on one self directed education. So we get down with anyone ages 5 and up who wants to take ownership over what they're learning, what they're doing, what they're achieving. And then I, as the educator, or whomever as the educator, is if you need a hand, if you need a nudge, if you need a little push, um, I'm not here to get in your way. I'm here to make your path clearer and direct to where you want to go.
Nice, nice.
Um,
And I like the off the beaten path. What's the beaten path?
what's the beaten path? So off the beaten path is you doing you. The beaten path is you doing somebody else.
Mm,
Is you abiding by some arbitrary standards that you don't understand and that you don't really resonate with. And
mm.
I'm choosing to go off of that beaten path and let's dig up this path for ourselves. And it's harder work a lot of the time. I think it can be harder, for one, because you're going up against the grain,
Mm.
and for two, because you're creating something yourself, and you can reinvent the wheel, or rather, like, use templates. There's so much resources out there that you can
Mm.
create something for yourself that's not completely new, and therefore it's not as difficult. But some people choose to really, really, really independently create for themselves. And that's a little bit where I live. It's like I want it. I want to I want to really go from a blank canvas to something autonomous and creative and best suited for that unique person.
Nice, nice. I love that. Do you provide with your, because you said, you're there if the people need a nudge or they need something. What kind of services do you provide?
Yeah. It's different for everybody. So
Okay.
it's interesting because it's so flexible, but it's also so consistent. So, for example, for one learner, I'm a writing coach. For
Hmm.
another learner, I'm their mentor, but it started off as their talent manager.
Mm.
And now they really call me their executive assistant
Okay.
because I'm really, the services I provide for that particular learner is documenting and making sure that they have all their schedule and all their goals and everything is um, organized. I really am like their very encouraging executive assistant.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, it's interesting because it can be so flexible. One person that was interested in off the beaten path learning services said to me, my daughter is a little averse to coaching. She doesn't
Mm.
really want anyone in her business like that. And you know, and first I said, well, more power to her. Maybe one-on-one guidance is not what she needs. Um, like if she's saying she doesn't need it, she doesn't want it right now. That's it. Um, but if you want to let her know that it doesn't have to be a coach, like we can create whatever supportive person you need as long as it's in my faculty to do so and it intersects with what you need.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
do it. I could be your butterfly. I could be in charge of your transformation, and you know,
Mm.
and like, and not a coach. So yeah, it can be. It's so wildly different for
Everyone.
whatever party, you know, and whatever needs they're at in that moment. It can change too, like I said about that talent manager to the executive assistant, and
Yes, indeed.
and friend. We're very close friends now because we've been working together for since the business started.
Nice. Okay. What led you here? What led you to creating Off the Beaten Path?
It was that learner actually, that one that we started three years ago. So I got a phone call, email, something from a previous learner, and they said, "I'm bored, I'm stuck, and I need your help." And at the time, they said the words talent manager, and it was kind of a joke, but I was very into it. So I was like, "Yeah, I'll manage your talent. I'm very down." And we because I was already in the world of unschooling, I was already in the world of self directed education, um, I was already in the world of homeschooling. And so I was a natural fit for the learner. And I think through their desire to have this one on one relationship came the off the beaten path learning as a whole business. It turns out a lot of people want really personalized attention. Shocking. um,
Right.
um, and what the other thing I've found is interesting is that there are different kinds of personalized attention. Like you
Yeah.
can have a therapist, you know, in the psychology realm. You can have a coach in the professional development realm, which is something I offer to adults. You know, you can have a mentor. You can have a specific kind of coach. You know, writing, sports, whatever. Yeah, it's interesting the way personalized attention can be even more personalized. Like I
Indeed.
have, you know, I have a therapist and I have a coach and I have a business coach. Like all these, and each of those people dedicate their that one-on-one time to me, but in different ways.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's needed. It's definitely needed. Support and community is, that's something that's needed regardless of whatever you're doing, from young to old. You want someone in your corner.
Right,
It's very important. You want
right,
encouragement, you want support, you want to know that you're not, doing everything wrong, so to speak,
right,
because
right.
everyone, this is something that we're doing for the first time a lot of time. Everything that we're doing is at one point is for the first time. And so I always talk about my seniors and how unguided I saw that they were, and how they were, really frightened about after life after high school. And I love that a lot of them still reach out to me and are able to ask me
Mm,
questions, or to,
mm,
because I don't have a title to it. I just still call them my babies. Like, so
mm,
they 21, 22, like they're my babies. But I just, I love being here for that support, because I don't want people to think that they have to do it alone, like
right,
anyone.
right.
So that's very important. And I love that. I love that you meet them where they're at and provide them with what they need. Because like you said, it does look different for everyone, as it should.
Mm.
Um, we had a conversation not too long ago about the American dream, me and a friend of mine. And I was just like, well, should everyone really be having the same dream? Like, is that something that everyone should be doing?
That's a rhetorical question because the answer is no.
Of course.
I'm going to go ahead and answer that rhetorical question. The answer is no.
Yes. Like you said, now that's why I really love your name, that beaten path that everyone has ultimately gone on, because homeschool is just now really taking off, even though it's where we came from,
Mm,
essentially. But everyone went through that public school or private school
mm,
sector, and they that's what the product of everything that's walking around right now. Like,
yeah,
it obviously didn't work out
yeah,
for everyone. It didn't provide them or
right,
fulfill them with what they needed to live a prosperous and happy life. Like, that
yeah.
happiness has to be a factor,
It
and it's
has to be.
ignored,
It has to
right?
be, especially for learning. If you are learning something and you are not at least sometimes happy about it. I mean, if you are like, don't get me wrong, stress can is a part of the learning experience, and you're not always going to be happy as a clam regardless of what you're doing, even if you really want to do that thing. Sure, that's true. But if you are always sad or always
Mm,
mad to be in a learning space, it's not working,
no,
and you're not learning.
no. No, 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 you're not. You're just there. You're a body in the seat at that point.
Yeah,
And I had
yeah,
plenty of bodies in seats
yeah,
in my
yeah,
my classroom. There were
yeah.
not a lot that were engaged with
Right,
what
right.
they had going on. I felt like it had been drained out of them. Like, you get to a point, like, how damaging are grades? Like, do people
Mm,
really think about that?
mm, mm. Yeah. I don't think that we do as a collective. I don't think that we do, and it's from my personal perspective. I experienced good grades and school refusal, and that was like as a student when I was younger in public school, and that was an
Mm,
interesting, like, dichotomous. Is that a word? It was an interesting contrast,
mm.
um, because I got a lot of pressure from my guidance counselors and my teachers. You're such a good student. Why don't you come? Why don't you do better? You're really a star pupil. And there was this really, like, you're not living up to your potential message that
Mm.
was so crushing because it
Because of your
turns out,
grades?
well, right, because when I did show up, I got decent grades. And when I didn't show up, I really did not show up. And it turns out it's because I really didn't want to be there and I didn't know how to express that. I had no idea how to articulate, I don't want to be here, and I didn't know I had another option. So I just expressed it how I knew how, which was not showing up. And
Mm.
it was hard. It was hard. It was hard to have this, like, confusion as to why I wasn't the person that I wanted to be and why I wasn't the person that everybody else wanted me to be either. I mean,
That's
as a teenager, I'm still going through the all the all the everything from that.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot. Like you said, as far as not being able to verbalize, I don't know if I ever really verbalized that I didn't want to be there. I showed mine, as far as I don't want to be. I just went to sleep. I came to school and I went to sleep. I did come,
Right. Right.
because I had to
Right.
come.
But you
However,
knocked out.
I just went to sleep.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
work. I did
Well,
enough,
yeah. Yeah.
to satisfy my parents. But like you said, potential wise, oh yeah, no, I wasn't like I didn't associate my potential with grades. I didn't associate my potential with completing schoolwork, you know?
Yes. And because it wasn't yours, it wasn't your goal. It wasn't your true. Now, how am I going to meet my potential when it's not my potential that I'm going after? I'm I'm
Mm.
I'm just blowing up to somebody else's potential. Like, this is very frustrating.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I just see, so many kids identify as whatever grades that they make. I talk about
mm,
that. I talk
mm,
about, like, you ask a
mm,
child how they're doing, ask a young person how they're doing, and they'll somehow associate how they're doing with, oh, I made honor roll. Like,
right,
oh,
right, right,
I make all A's. Like, he's like, I didn't
right,
ask you anything about school. I'm asking how you're doing. Like,
right,
and they have embodied that as being them. Like that, this is
right,
it. This is what
right,
who I am. This is what I am. Because there's so much, like, put on that thing. Like when my oldest was in school, she only went up to first grade, but she didn't know anything about grades. Like I never showed her a report card. We never sat
mm,
and talked about her report card. Like I didn't want that to become her. I didn't want that pressure on her. And so just knowing and understanding how effective grades can be on the mental of a
yeah,
child, I think
yeah.
that it should be something that people look more into and understand.
My thing is, like, it absolutely can be harmful. I think my thing that I go to is that what's helpful is personalized feedback. A
Mm,
grade is a number, and you can only do so much with that information. Okay, I got an 80 on my exam. Okay, here's the questions I got wrong. Okay, I guess I could go back and look at that. Sure. But a personalized feedback, like the in the world where I went to school, and it was self-directed at Goddard College, I was lucky enough to get really personalized feedback from my faculty. And it was the first time I wasn't getting grades. I was getting full letters with
mm,
resources and ideas and opinions about my work, and here's what you can do better, and here's what I really loved. And like, it was so, I would look forward to those letters from my faculty in a way that, like, I never. I like detested getting grades back. I would not look at them. I would just be like, I don't want to know. Um, and and it's so, and now I'm able to provide as an educator, because I'm in a space where it's self-directed, and it's a space where it's personalized, and the system allows for that. I get a chance to not only provide really personalized feedback, but match it according to their own standards of evaluation. Here's
mm.
what you care about, and here's how
Yes.
I, as an educator and a person who is trained and educated in development and learning and growth, here's how I can use my expertise to see, okay, how did you grow according to your measures of success?
I love
Yours,
that.
not mine, not mine. These are yours.
I
Uh,
love
and
that. That's
yeah,
important.
it is personalized feedback, and self-evaluation too. There's no self-evaluation in school. Like, what's that
Yes.
about? It's very rare. It's very, very rare.
Yes,
It
yes.
doesn't Aren't we the opinions that count the most? Like, this is my life.
You
You
would
don't care
think.
what I think about my life? What?
You would think. I know I
No.
started, I used to have my students create a vision board at the beginning of the school year. Always, like you said, how you just said, this is what measures up to what you're trying to accomplish. This is, let's look at your goals, let's look at your vision for your life, and then let's see how we're working towards that. How are we, going in that
Amen.
direction?
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. And so that was really important for me. I started every school year like that. Every school year.
Stop.
We
You know what's
gotta
so cute? Nobody's gonna see this, but I printed this out this morning. My
Oh,
little,
you created that.
I did. It's my vision board. So funny that
Oh,
you brought that up. It's right
I
here.
know I have a couple. I created like two this year. I haven't created one in the last 6 months. We've been traveling a lot, but I created two at the beginning of the year, and one I carried with me, and it was just about adventure
Oh,
and
I
talking
love
about,
that.
like, just it matched up to everything we were doing, put it that way. So it was really
Oh,
cool to set that intention. But those
And you
are
did. You had a
important.
ton of adventure. You had a ton of adventure this summer. I was a little bit a part of that adventure this summer.
Yes, and I appreciate you for sharing your time and energy. Beautiful, beautiful
Oh,
energy at the Brooklyn Expo. Like I loved it. I love that intimate setting. I love talking with the families. I love that. I really did. That was very
yeah, yeah.
that was awesome. That was
Oh,
awesome.
it was. I'm just thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so glad I saw the open invite on the Vila platform.
Hmm.
Um, really so glad. I had such a good time. And from that expo at the library, um, so Jay was touring, as I understand it, like the whole
Hmm.
country and doing homeschool your kids
Half
expos.
of it, half the
I
country.
mean, half. It's a huge country, so I'm gonna go ahead and say it, the whole country. And yeah, so I stopped for the Brooklyn, New York expo, and I met a bunch of families, and we talked, like Jay said. And what really stood out to me was what that one little girl said: "I like art." And I know it
Mm.
sounds so simple, but when we were talking about what's your favorite aspect of homeschooling, that was her answer. She really thought about it. She really, really thought it. There was a time that we all held, we all stayed silent, we all waited for her answer, and she said, "I like art." And to me, it said so much in just 3 words, because for me it's like, it doesn't matter what you put at the end of that. You get to do what you're good at. You get to do what you like. You have the freedom, space, time to explore yourself, essentially. um and I just, I really, her answer stays with me as something like a really simple reason for homeschooling. It's, I like art, and if I'm in school, I don't get to like art the way I like art now.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed. You don't have that much time for it. And a lot of schools are phasing out those type of, courses. And
they're
art is
phasing out everything. They're phasing out books. They're I mean, it's, well, I don't know what. Yeah.
like I'm not even gonna go there. Yeah. So, but you said that you were well versed before starting off the beaten path. You say you were already into the unschooling, homeschooling. How was that? What was like what dynamic was that in?
Yeah, so um I'm going to take you back to 2010.
Okay.
that's when I that's when I got my GED, and that's what got me into the alternative education world. And then 2 years after that, I heard an episode on NPR about Brooklyn Free School. Brooklyn Free
Mm,
School, still around, still amazing. Look it up if you don't know anything about it, especially if you're in New York City and you're looking for alternatives. Brooklyn Free School has no grades, no classes, none of that if you don't want it, right? It's self-directed. It's a democratic free school, and it's very self-directed in nature. And I was like, when I heard that, I still remember where I was when I heard that episode, the NPR episode. I was in my mom's house. I was like, my jaw was dropped for the most part of that episode.
oh,
I just didn't know anything like that existed, and I was already moving towards that. So I was interested in education, but I knew I hated school,
mm,
um, which is a very hard place for someone to be when all they think is education is school. It's not,
mm,
as it turns out. And so it was really amazing to find out about Brooklyn Free School through NPR. And that took me into a whole journey. I ended up finding Arrow, the Alternative Education Revolution organization, and I went to their conference. And through that conference, I found Goddard College, which then led me to a bachelor's that I was able to finish because it was self directed, because I
nice.
cared about what I was doing. Amazing. And I
Mm,
went on to get my master's also in community education. And so and I've been like working in alternative ed spaces here and there throughout. Like, for example, I worked at Red Hook Initiative in Brooklyn, um, on and off for quite some time, and they offer essentially jobs. They offer training and leadership opportunities for young people. So that
Mm.
the work I was doing there was alternative ed in the sense that it was about they got to self-select which program they would be in, and they got to be voice was very much a part of youth leadership at RHI, and so they kind of built the programs along with us, um, and so that was a taste of alternative ed for sure. I worked
Nice.
at a homeschool learning program, so there have been little, like, yeah, exactly, little, the road has been pretty steadily alternative ed for the last 14 years, which is kind of amazing. There have been bits and pieces of conventional education as well, um, tutoring and charter schools and stuff like that. But my heart really lies in the alternative community education worlds.
Nice.
There's something so different about those worlds than from conventional education.
Indeed. And I'm glad that you started with and took us back to 2010. You would say you received your GED, and from your
Yes, I did.
GED, you
Yes, I
went
did.
to your master's. I've had this talk too. That lovely
IE GED to PhD. Let's go. Okay, let's go. Those are the letters. Let's go.
yes, I love no, that's a big deal because I used to talk to students about getting GEDs and it was so frowned upon. Like, people are so like headstrong. Or, no, I got to get my high school diploma. And I used to tell people if I had that option, if someone had told me in ninth or 10th grade that there was a
Mm,
test
mm,
that I could pass and be done, I would have sign me up, please. Like,
yeah,
get me
yeah,
out, please.
yeah.
And it's just wild to see that people are so headstrong on, oh, yeah, no, I don't want to get a GED, or no, my child's not getting a GED. And it's just like, why? Why not?
It's it's fear. I think that's the biggest thing is like fear and the stigma around the GED. By the way, it's kind of a hard exam.
It
So
is. I've heard plenty
yeah,
of times.
it's
Like that's always the thing. Like like anytime I have this, like no, that's it's pretty hard.
it's
It's pretty
pretty
hard to
hard.
get.
Yeah. It's I remember a guidance counselor in my freshman year of high school when I was in ninth grade. I was a situation. I'd been depressed, I'd been diagnosed, I'd recently gotten my IEP. I was a whole situation of a student. My mom and I went to the guidance counselor and he suggested a GED. He said,
Nice.
in a year or so, your mom can sign you to have, because I was 14, I think, at the time, and the age is 16, at least in New York, you can um, get that. And so he suggested it. He said, "Listen, there's this exam, and you would be done with high school. And you
Mm.
seem like a good student. You seem like you might have the ability to, study and pass. And so consider it." And both my mother and I were like, "Absolutely not." And I
Really?
think, yeah, and I really, I don't necessarily regret it because I think going through the misery of high school was important for my understanding of having that connection and that really deep understanding of what it means to not choose and why it's
Mm.
so important to choose.
To
So I really
choose,
have,
yes.
yeah, I really have a deep emotional connection with that principle of self-directed education for that reason. So I don't necessarily regret it, but God, maybe I would have advanced like so much quicker. Maybe, there are just so many maybes that I do think about.
Of course.
What if I had? I don't know.
Yes, but you ultimately did go and make that choice, and then you continued.
And I
It's like
continued.
it's not a last stop. I don't know. But I've always said, like, they don't ask you when you sign an application or you fill out an application, they ask you if you have a GED or, well, a high school diploma or an equivalent. Equivalent in
It's the
my
same
my book
line.
equals, it's like equals, like, that's what equivalent means. It equals, it means equal to.
That's not just your book. That is, yeah.
So therefore, I've always just been like, yo, like they don't even ask you to provide anything to show like these equivalents. So it's just, but that equivalent part always stick out to me. And so I used to tell, like I had a student that was 17 in the 10th grade. And his thing was not coming to school either. Like it wasn't his thing. But when he came, he showed up. Like, he could everything was neat as I don't know what. Like everything was there. Like he had it. And it was just like, well, why don't you get your GED? And he was like, I'm not getting my GED. And I was like, yo, why you act like I just cursed you? Like, why you act like I just, like, no, I'm serious. Like your time is more valuable. And that's what I've always been real big on time. Like
Time.
time. The
Oh,
amount of
talk about
time
it.
that's spent in a system that does not push you to thrive in your best self, that should be illegal. Like that's not right in my eyes. And so I'm glad that you shared that. I'm so glad because that's what people got to understand. Like,
Best decision I ever made to this day. I say that quite a lot because it
nice,
is. It was.
nice.
Because it was so groundbreaking for me to realize that I could have an impact on myself. Like nobody nobody told me.
Yes,
And then I
ma'am.
and then I just kind of had to fall into it. I can actually like control where my life goes. You know.
Yes.
Wow.
Choices. We have them, even though they don't talk about them. They are there. I love that. I love that completely. So yes, the homeschool world. Because a lot of homeschool families are young learners. They opt out and decide to do their GED early so that they can be finished, which I love. Because your finish looks different for everyone. And I don't a lot of our young people, I feel like the dynamics to them as far as like their potential and what they can learn and how they can learn and that rate of learning, what that looks like for everyone is totally different. And so some are ready and done at 14, 15 years old, 16 years old. They're ready to go on to the next thing. They're not it's like I don't have to keep studying the same English, math, science, social studies. Like I got it all. I got it. I'm good.
Right.
And I can go on and start another chapter, which whatever that chapter looks like. And I love that option. I do. But alternative education or unconventional education is definitely becoming way, way more prominent, of course, since the 2020.
Even
Yeah.
before then, but yeah, it was quite a
Yes.
jump.
Yes. Yeah.
It was
2020 definitely jumped, but prior
yeah,
to, families were
yeah,
definitely waking up to the fact that, okay, we can do something different.
right. We can do what we need to do for
Yes.
us.
Yes. Yes. Your
Yeah,
home, your way. Really big on
right,
that.
right,
Um, the individual, just being like treating people as an individual and not a group or not a
yeah. Oh,
like a group A, group B, group C. That's how I always saw it because it was always advanced,
yeah.
intermediate, or below. So it's always like, you got to fall in one of those groups. But I talked recently with someone about all the labels, the new labels of like neurodivergent and
Mm-hmm.
just different, I guess, like labels that determine people's learning styles. I guess.
Yes.
I guess that's
Well,
what
I
they
mean,
are.
it definitely impacts your learning style for sure.
Yes.
Are you talking about labels and just disability
Yes.
labels in general?
Yes. Because I
Mm-hmm.
see
Yeah,
that
I would.
as
It
still,
absolutely impacts your learning style. Yeah.
yeah, but I still see that like with all the new labels and old labels in general, I still feel that that's a way of telling you something's wrong with how you learn. And I don't think that that's
Mm-hmm.
a thing. Like it's still trying
Mm-hmm.
to not to keep you from being an individual. Like it's still trying to put you in a box of, okay, no, since you don't learn this way, this one common core way or standardized way, then we're going to give you this label and put you in this category. And I don't think that's, I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's interesting.
It is
Um,
interesting, and I'm with you in the sense that labels have to help. If they don't help you, just don't. Just don't even. Just, it's not even, it has to help you or it's not helpful. Like, that's really the end of story. Um, and, I think a lot of what we're talking about from the GED to the labels is so much about associations. Like, here's what we associate, here's what our brain, our parietal lobe already associates with the GED. Oh, it's for, I don't know, losers or whatever. So I'm not gonna. Oh, labels, they're for people that are wrong or broken or something. So
mm-hmm,
I'm not even gonna. Us, these associations are messing us up.
mm-hmm,
We need to shake this off, and I think have a more nuanced understanding, especially of disability. I saw, so I myself, I'm disabled in a plentitude of ways. My biggest label that I identify with is being bipolar, is having bipolar disorder.
mm-hmm,
But there are also some other things going on that also have their effect. Um, and I think, a more nuanced understanding of this stuff would be number one, that we're all different. Regardless of how many bipolar people are next to me, I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to be
mm-hmm,
completely different. My bipolar is going to show up completely different, all that. So we're all different. And number two, we are likely all going to be disabled at some point in our life. When I say likely, I mean almost definitely, unless you are, I don't know, some scientific experiment, you will be disabled at some point in your life. The question is, I guess, will it be chronic or will it be passing? I don't know. But at some point, you're going to need some accommodations. And so
mm-hmm.
I really think that everyone, all organizations, all school spaces, all workspaces need inclusion just built in, because inclusion is
Mm-hmm.
really just the idea that you're meeting everyone where they're at.
I was gonna
What do you think?
ask you because you spoke on having an IEP. How
Yeah, yeah.
helpful was that? Was that a helpful document?
Good question. Good question. I would say it was helpful. It was not everything. By no means did it touch self-directed education for me. Like, by no
Mm-hmm.
stretch of the imagination was it as good as that. I needed to direct myself. I needed to create my own learning. I needed to explore and be creative and exercise those skills. I needed that. However, when I got an IEP in high school, they did put me in a special program that was like annexed from the rest of the school. And I did get more personal attention. And it was helpful that I got that space to myself where there was less stimulation and there was more attention. Those tiny, and they were tiny in the impact, but they were
Mm-hmm.
helpful. They were. They allowed for some respite during the day. It was helpful.
Okay, so
Yeah, and
for
the IEP continued into like college years,
okay.
not as an IEP, but as a diagnosis with a doctor that would sign a little letter, and then the college and workspaces too. Like I am open with my employers about the fact that I need accommodations, and we'll talk about it. And I've been really lucky and blessed in the sense that my workplaces, including now my own, where I'm the business owner, have all been pretty good about inclusion and accommodations.
Nice. How involved do you feel like you were in that, the creating of and maintaining your IEP? Because I know there's like, I don't know, quarterly meetings. And for those who don't know, because we do have a lot of, parents who are have young kids who haven't even reached the school system yet. IEPs are individual educational learning plans. they are meant to be, like Dominique said, they are meant to provide accommodations for whatever learning style or behavior or anything, any kind of label that has been placed is supposed to help figure out your way in the classroom with everyone else, um, and how it's going to work best for you, the individual,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
So, how involved were you in creating that plan? Because you said you were in high
Oh,
school, so that's of age,
yeah.
because they give
It
kids
is of age. Yeah. Yeah. Right. I'm
as young
saying.
as third grade IEPs, and you could imagine how much input they have. But as a high schooler, well into your teens, how, like, how including you just held up zero.
Yeah. Yeah. Diddly. 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 Nada.
So you were just
Nothing.
there.
I was just there. I do remember being poked and prodded, not literally, but like I went through quite a lot of testing, evaluation. I did my I did a psycho exam. I did like all these. I don't know. Poked and prodded is the best term I can think of. So I was involved in that way, but was I
Mm,
like? Did anyone ask me what do you want? No,
no.
no, I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Because I could think back to the IEP meetings that I had to attend, and it was just more of a, the students sitting there listening to all these adults talk about what they've observed, I guess, basically. Um, and not much input on what they're going to do to reach their goals or anything
Yeah,
like even the
yeah,
goals that were set were based off of an adult making
yeah.
those goals. And so I just, from talking to you
It's
now as an
interesting.
adult, how beneficial, because you said they do serve a purpose, even though you didn't have input in it, you do feel like it did something for you, right?
For me personally, it did a little something. Yeah, it did. It did.
Okay.
But do I think that I had an input? Nope. And do I think that my mom had an input?
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm gonna say not really. I think probably the people that had the most input were like the medical
Mm-hmm.
professionals in the arena. They
That's
did
what
the
I
advising.
observed too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Who like did they know me? Like did they spend more than 10 minutes with me? I, anyway, it is what it is. It was somewhat helpful, but it's really a misnomer somehow that it's an individualized education plan. It's almost sometimes a joke because these individualized education plans, they're meant to be so individualized and personalized, but they are often cut, copy, and pasted and just remixed a little bit,
Yes, ma'am.
student by student. And I mean a little bit. And
Yes.
it's like, what is that about? I've also noticed something else interesting in reading other people's IEPs. As an educator, I have access to people's IEPs from time to time, and the the people who write the actual IEP, they're people with their own background, their own biases, and just as a teacher or another human service professional does not have to be culturally responsive, neither does the person writing the IEP.
Mm.
I saw one IEP in particular, without naming any names, where salami was put in quotations as if it's not a real food, and like I mean, is and the context around the sentence was also a little like I didn't like it. It rubbed me the wrong way, and I
Mm.
wondered how um, like if the kid had seen it, if the kid did see it, like how did that land with them? That's their culture. That's their culture being put in quotation marks.
Mm.
So it's just the whole thing is imperfect. I get is what my main point.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's in that system. So I just wanted to, from your perspective, especially as an adult now and being able to reflect on that journey through school, just
Mhm.
pick your brain with that. because
Mm.
I've always had my lovely opinion on IEPs, because I've been a part of that process. Like I said, I can tell you what I
Right.
observed being in those meetings.
Right.
However, being the student, supposed to be receiving those services and setting those goals and accomplishing the goals that are set in those individual plans, it's just like, well, how involved or included do you feel that you were in that? And
Yeah. Yeah. I would love some research as to like what percentage of IEP receivers, learners, students are involved in their
in their
planning.
plan, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be
I
some
would
good
love to see that
research.
research. Yeah. Um, I think just going back to the associations, um, and the conversation around disability, that I really want to say as a sometimes proud member of this community, um, to all the parents out there, all the family members out there that are thinking, should I get my kid evaluated? Is this a bad thing? I'm scared. I'm worried. Try to let go of those associations that are negative. Hold on to your kids' strengths. They will always be there, regardless of how disabled they may be. Whoever is genius. I really believe that every single person is a genius. Some people need better access to their genius. Um, and that is always possible. Always, 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 regardless of whatever disability or disabilities that you are going through. And so I think my message is, don't be scared, um, and just embrace the possibility of doing what's right for your kid and your family.
Mm,
And that very often does include, if the label is helpful, it might include a label, it might include two, I don't know. And that's okay. Like, it's helpful. If it's helpful, it's so helpful.
mm,
Um, and so to avoid it may be harmful. Really give it its due thought, while trying to shake off those negative associations, because there's so much stigma with disability, so much stigma. It's really a shame.
yeah, indeed, indeed. It's probably the word. If they called it something else, as opposed to disability, it may, may definitely hit different. I know Kanye got a song where he talked about him being bipolar and he called it a superpower.
Mm,
So,
mm.
you know, perspective is everything. And word
Perspective
is,
is everything.
and like you said, association and like mainly word association, all words have, a positive or negative connotation associated
Mm,
with it because that's what
mm,
we've been taught and programmed to feel or think about certain words, they're triggers. And
yeah.
so maybe if it was called something different,
Right.
as
Right.
opposed to the dis, then
Ability. Right. Right.
yeah, then it would be a
That's interesting. I've had this conversation with many people. So that's a good point. A lot of people prefer neurodivergent because it just means
mm-hmm,
everybody's got a different brain.
yes.
I vibe. For me personally, I really actually like disability as a term that I resonate with personally, because for me it acknowledges that this shit is tough. Excuse my language.
Oh no, no.
I one person recently, I was doing a workshop on, um, finding your genius with neurodivergent unschoolers. Great
Mm.
workshop, loved it, so much fun. With the Unschool Files community, you know them? They're so cool.
No, I think you mentioned them. I think you mentioned them to
Yeah,
me, but no, I'm not familiar.
for y'all listening, if you're interested in unschooling, look up the Unschool Files. They have a whole Discord community. There's a zine. They're the best. Anyway,
Mm.
so one person from this community, I was talking to them and introducing myself and all my labels, and her response was, when she heard all this, she said, "Oh wow, that's a lot." And that to me is what disability encompasses, is that acknowledgement that it's a lot. And for me anyway, everyone's different, but for me it feels like a head nod to the hard work that I'm doing just by getting up in the morning, because everybody's got life. Um, and I guess I feel lucky in a way that I get to have this knowledge of particular parts of my brain and body that do inhibit daily functioning, and that I have to kind of go up against and fight on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's an interesting point. Disability, the word itself, disability. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not for everybody. It's not. And if, like I said, if it doesn't help you, it doesn't help you.
Yeah, no, I just think it's, in the society that we are a part of. Um, I guess those labels are, in my eyes, are just saying, okay, because you don't function like everyone in our
Mm-hmm.
society or majority in the society, then you have to be disabled. Like there's something wrong
Mm-hmm.
with you. It's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
that's my take on it. And that's like,
Like pathologizing any little differentiation.
yeah. And it's like, no, you're just different. Like this is, like you said, with the neurodivergent, it's how your brain works. It's
Yeah.
not a bad or good thing. It becomes a good or bad thing by standards of society, by what you have to do and how you have to operate in society
Right.
for you
Mm-hmm.
to be okay, for them not to put you in a hospital or something, or, whatever the case may be, because of your different
Mm-hmm.
individual behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't know. It's
Mm-hmm.
is what it is.
A good friend of mine is a speech therapist, and she recently said to me, um, if I have, she's in the midst of like family planning, doesn't have any kids, and she was saying if I have any children that have anything going on, anything at all, they're not neurotypical, they're disabled in some way, like whatever, I am not sending them to public school. She works in the public school
mm,
system. She's great at what she does. She loves her job. But she's also seeing it every day,
I
and
about
she
to say she's
knows that
very
it
aware. Yes.
doesn't work, especially for people that are anywhere outside of the narrow mainstream. Yeah, that line. Yeah, it just doesn't. It's just really. It's not. It's not it.
Indeed, indeed. So you
You
had
got to
already
find what fits.
started. Yes, ma'am. Because we are all individuals. That's what I want people to understand. Like things look different for each and every one of us. All 7+ billion people, one of us is all something different. You had already started with advice to parents, and I love that. I typically ask, for 3 things that you would like to leave with our listeners. Most of them being parents, of course. What are 3 things that you would like to tell parents in regards to anything we've discussed or haven't discussed, just moving forward, something that they could take with them?
3, huh?
3.
Okay, I got it. um, all right. Number 1, strengths based is it every time. Um, when I studied culturally responsive pedagogy as a graduate student, that was my focus, and strengths based approach seemed to be a really big part of culturally responsive pedagogy. The idea being that you start with everything and anything they are doing right,
Mm,
or doing well, or just interested in. You start with where they're at, um, and not with what's wrong, with what you see as wrong, but instead with what you are observing that they're enjoying, they're liking, they're getting stronger at. For example, let's say your kid struggles with writing, but they're really good with math. Um, just a very basic example, but you could use math to get to writing. You could use that what they're good at to navigate the waters of what they're not. And so strengths based is number one. Number two is embrace failure.
Mm.
When I tell you failure is the only road to success, I mean it is. It just is. It just is. Um, and so really embrace it. And when I say embrace it, I don't mean like, whoa, let's make mistakes all the time and just live recklessly. No. I mean, do what you're doing, go for your goals, and when, not if, when inevitably you fall down, know how you're going to get back up. Know that it's okay.
Mm. Mm.
Know about it.
Yes.
Know about failure as a reality and an inevitability toward your success. And know that also it's a cycle. No matter how many times you succeed, you're going to fail again.
Mm.
It's a cycle. It's a cycle. Trust it. And the last thing I would say is that I'm going to share my formula for empowerment. It's really basic. It's joy plus accomplishment.
Mm.
Joy plus accomplishment. If you can manage to find joy in what you're doing and feel a sense of I'm doing the things I want to be doing, you will know that you can make an impact on your own life. You will know you can make an impact on the world. You will sense your power. You will have that sense of autonomy and agency because you are happy doing the things that you want to be doing.
Yeah.
Um, strengths, failure, joy, accomplishment.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this. Definitely,
This
whenever
was
I
so
start any
fun.
conversation, I don't really know where it's gonna go, but I'm always so happy at the end because it's like, okay, see, that's beautiful. I'm glad we talked about that because I know someone needed that. I definitely do.
Mm, mm,
So I'm always excited in that regard. So thank you for all that you shared.
yeah.
Uh, how can we find Off the Beaten Path
Off the
LLC?
Beaten Path LLC. Yep, Off the Beaten Path Learning. You can look up Off the Beaten Path Learning. DA for the. So the is spelled wrong. The is spelled with a DA. I did that very intentionally because we're doing things off the
Indeed.
beaten path.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
and so, yeah, look up Off the Beaten Path Learning, or you can go to offdabeatenpath.com. My email is at the bottom, and yeah, yeah,
Okay. Do you have any social medias?
offthebeatenpath.com. I do, yeah. It's should I spell it? I don't know. Maybe I'll. It's BKLYN dot edu.dom for Dom.
Okay.
Brooklyn.edu.dom. I can send you this stuff and you can.
Yeah, because I always include it anyways, in the description.
Right, right,
So,
right. Yeah,
but
so I'm
yeah,
on Instagram and I'm on the website. Exactly. Yeah.
awesome, awesome. All right. Thank you for all that you do. Keep doing. Parents, listeners, guardians, caregivers, whatever category you fall in, just understand that do what works for you. As Dom has said a
Mm,
couple
mm,
times
mm,
throughout here,
mm,
do
mm,
what works
mm,
for you. Really, really
mm.
understand that that's what this is about. Choices, tapping into those choices that we do have. Continue to believe in yourself, continue to go forward, continue to remain out that box. Because I feel like if you listening to this, then you're not on the box, you're not in the box, like
Mhm, mhm,
or you may
mhm.
be teetering,
Right,
out one
right.
leg in, one leg out. But just understand that you got it. I want you to always you got it, you got it, you got it, you got it.
That's right.
Okay, so
Amen. Let's
thrive
go.
in that, go in that, and be the change because we need it. So homeschool your
Jay, thank you
kids.
so much.
Of course.